Hey there, this is my first time creating a deck profile for YouTube, so here goes nothing. So with COVID-19 happening at the moment, I can't really play games, so I'll show people my decks from research I've done, my own little bits as well, and you can see what you want to do. So this deck's the Aqua Revonn, so you have the choice, but I prefer to use the set 12 v-eb12, which is Rest Kesty. So basically, as you know, it's when you ride on top of it, you get to draw an extra card. And it's a good card for a Soul Blast as well, because, well, this deck will be requiring some later. So then for trigger lineup, I had a choice. What I decided to do was 4 PG's draw triggers, because this deck does use your hand up quite a bit to keep your field full, because with Revonn's ability explained later, and that's why I also chose to use 2 sea otters as well, just to increase my hand so it doesn't go low. Other cards would be, then I had a choice, and what I decided to do was not to go all on, but I decided to do 6 criticals in total, because with Revonn getting abilities and extra drives and power, the opponent would have to use quite a lot of their hand end to guard, and if it doesn't work, you can pass it on to your rear guard, and I'll explain later which ones can restand. And lastly, 4 heal triggers. Now, from what I've learned is you can have the choice of playing heal triggers, or if you want to be purely aggressive, you can use 12 criticals, or 10 criticals, or however you want, but that comes down to your own play style. Now for grade 1s, one of the key cards you need is v-eb12, because one of the good things, it's got 2 abilities. One, for a rear guard more, is that if you got 4 or more rear guards at rest, this card gains 5k. So it's a good, but it requires you to use your whole hand at the beginning. But it's a really good rear guard in the late game. One of the good things is if you have not really any grade 3s and you can't find any, when this card is played, you can check the top 5. And you can add any grade 3 you want into your hand and then shuffle your deck. However, if you did put a card into your hand, you must discard it. So it's your choice if you want to get a card or not, but that comes down to your moments in your game. One of the other key cards is from this set is 4 copies of Battle Siren Nasia. It actually works quite well with Revonn here, which is the key card, because one of its abilities is that you have to, when this card is raised by an ability, you can pay a Soul Blast of 1, you get to restand it, and it gains 10,000 power. So that means you only lose a Soul Blast, but you gain a massive amount of powers. And also, if you're playing against a deck that retires or binds like Narukami or Shadows and stuff like that, you can send this card into your soul to draw a card, so it helps with soul. But just be wary, because some abilities require to have 4 rest cards, so just be careful about the timing you want to use this ability at. One of the other cards that's quite a good card to use is Wheel Assault. Now, the first ability is my choice, but I don't think it's too much. But at the end of a battle at booster, you can change 2 of your rear guards and exchange their positions. So you could put maybe with an Axile marker, or if you have a grade 2 in your back row, you can swap them around. So it gives you an extra attack, but it's up to you. But the good thing is with, actually, this is a good starting Vanguard, because when rode upon, if you pay a Power Blast of 1, you get to draw a card, and you get to call a rear guard from your hand. Get to call a card to rear guard from your hand. So you get an extra unit straight away, and all it costs is a counter blast of 1, and you keep your hand size more or less the same. So it actually works quite nice, but it's once again up to you, because if you're playing against like Narukami, this may not be such a great choice, because you could lose the card when you need it in the late game. Now, these card choices are mine, but I decided to go with 2 Blue Wave Shield General Yorgos. The reason I chose this card is I know one of the top meta techs at the moment is Narukami, and this card may not work well against it, but against other cards, say decks, it could work quite well, because when your Vanguard is attacked and you got 4 more resting rear guards, you can put this card from your back row into the Guardian Circle. And because it's got a 10,000 shield, that helped quite a lot. But you got to be careful if you got 2 on the field, because you need to be aware of how many rear guards you got. So if you got like a rear guard in the front where it's being attacked, maybe you should use a card to defend it. But that depends on your moment, of course, because I can't really say what's right and wrong in the deck you want to use. Now for the grade 2 lineup, one of the cards I chose, and it actually works quite well, is Coral Assault, because this card's more of a support card, but it really helps out with attack power, because during the battle attacks, if you have 4 more other cards at rest, it gains 15,000 power, so you don't even need to put this on the Axel marker to get power. It will be a 24 attack, so the opponent will have to use a 15k guard to block it. And the other good ability is, if the total number of attacks this turn is 4 or more, you can put this card into your soul and draw a card. So it's kind of similar to Battle Sister grade 1, but you got to be careful how many times you use it, because it's actually quite a good rear guard for the power boost. So it's up to you if you want to use it up or not. One of the cards then from 12 that could be useful is Blue Wave Marine General Gallus, because similar to the grade 1, if there are 4 more rested rear guards, it gains 5,000 power, and this is both a Vanguard and a rear guard. So Vanguard could be a bit more better with the 4 rest guards better than the grade 1, but that's up to you, of course, because you could be quite an attacking person at the beginning. And then a good ability is with Revonn is when your Vanguard attacks and your opponent and if your opponent's attack power is different, which some of these cards will enable, you can play a counterblast of 1 and allow this unit to stand. So you can put it like on the Axel marker, it will be 14k, and then when it attacks again, you can put a trigger there, and then your opponent will have to guard against it as well. But as I say, this is in the moment. One of the other grade 2s to include are Blue Wave Marine General Felvis. Now, this is quite a nice card, because if you play last card Revonn and you have too many, let's say, grade 0s in your hand and you want more grade 1s, you can have a little bit like a lottery with this if you want, because if you play a Soul Blast of 1 and rest this unit, you can look at the top card of your deck and call it to rearguard. So you could get like a grade 1 or grade 2 or even a grade 3 you really need, and it will help get that attack power while saving up your hand. But you just got to be careful, because it could pull up like a heal trigger and that could hurt you more or later. So it's up to you, but I feel like that ability is quite good when you're low on cards or if you want more power attacks. But it's up to you, of course. And another good thing is similar to Gallus here. When my grade 3 Vanguard attacks, if your opponent's Vanguard current attack is different, either higher or lower than its original, you can discard a card from your hand and you can stand this unit. So you just so it allows up to both Gallius and this card having 2 more attacks. So overall you could be getting up to 5 or 6 attacks, and that's quite good when you're facing someone who's on 6 damage, because they have to block all those attacks. And any decks with like lots of cards in their hand, say as Pale Moon or Tachikaze, you can stop them now. But you just got to be aware that you got to discard a card while the Vanguard attacks. So you need to keep at least 1 card in your hand, otherwise you can't use this ability. Now this is my choice for these 2 cards, because I looked around and I needed to fill in the deck number. But the reason I chose this is, first of all, it's Marine General Head Seas. So I chose this for the Vanguard and Rearguard because if you rest one of your units, this gains 5k, and it works both on Vanguard and Rearguard. I chose this card because if you have a grade 1 that can't really do anything, or you want to save it, you can rest it, and so the opponent can't attack it, and then you can use this card to gain a boost. Or if you want to for early attacks, you could play this card, rest it, Soul Blast, and stand this with 18k and that on 14k. But it will use up an early Soul Blast, so it depends on how aggressive you want to be in your attacks. And the other card I chose was Twirl Assault. Now, the reason I chose this one is Revonn's quite good as a first attack because you get to use you get to draw 3 cards and gain power, even if your opponent's not on grade 2, but is on a grade 2. But if you go second, you could leave yourself open. So I like this guy because if it's on Vanguard and your opponent is grade 2, then you get an extra drive, so that's a twin drive, and that can help you get the cards you're missing, or if you're low on cards. But this card's very optional, but I like him, so that's mine. And lastly, for grade 3s, the cards I decided, well, the main card for this deck is Last Card Revonn. It's quite a good card because if you got 4 or more rested rear guards, first of all, its first ability is if you rest a unit, then your opponent loses 5,000 power, and that'll allow even grade 1 attacks to get through, even if they're an 13k Vanguard, and that can help. And it also work well with this card because, similar to the other card, if you rest this ability, you can Soul Blast 1 and it will allow it to restand, so you literally lose nothing from using Revonn's ability, and it will give your rearguard a lot more power. And if you can somehow stand it back up with other cards, maybe in premium or something, then it will give your opponent a lot of trouble. And its other good ability is when it attacks, if you have 5 or more rested rear guards, until the end of this turn, it will gain 15,000 power and a critical. So that means you get triple drive, so you can use your hand up a little bit and replenish it. And the other good thing is, if you play it on the top of a grade 3 and there's a grade 3 in your soul, then it will always have a critical, it will have an extra critical. So it's quite good, because if you go triple drive and you get a critical in that, you could inflict 3 damage, and that could be a big win when your opponent isn't expecting it. But it is quite good, very consistent card, and it does go well against quite a lot of decks. It's just probably against no Akami, it's quite hard to fill out the deck, so I field, because of all the binding effects. So be wary of how many times you try to use Revonn, because you may want to mix it around to try and get the right timing. And finish off is, this is my choice, but I feel like including 1 Glory Maelstrom. Now, the reason why I chose this is because with a counterblast of 1, the opponent cannot intercept and has to use 1 card to guard each attack. It will, if you had a Maelstrom, you could inflict at 10,000 power, but I just chose 1 because depending on the opponent, they may have like quite a lot of rearguard intercepts and not many cards in hand. So I feel like this card would be quite good in those situations, or if they have no cards in hand, because then even if they get a trigger, they can't intercept or get power. But as I say, this choice is up to you, because there are other grade 3s in the deck from 12 that you could use. But that's it. So thanks for listening. And if you like this, give me a like or comment, and I'll try and reply as soon as possible.